All right. So what we had done up till now was we had tested our two hypotheses. We had done the mediation, we had done the moderation, we had done this plot, okay, where we looked at the moderating role of psychological capital breach for the relationship between POS and OCD. So the next thing, yeah, let me share my screen. Okay, so we had done the two hypotheses. The first two hypotheses we had tested. We had plotted this graph. We had tested the moderating role of PCB for POS and OCD relationship. Now the last thing that we were coming to was this third hypothesis, which is the moderated mediation hypothesis. And I said we will go to, this is where we lost contact. So we had come to model number 8 because if you remember, we had said that this is the diagram, this is the template that matches what we are trying to do here. And so we go to model number 8. Our outcome variable is OCB. The mediator M is effective commitment. The independent variable is the mean-centered POS. Why mean-centered? Because remember, we will be doing the product of POS and psychological contract breach, and I told you that you should always mean-center in order to make the coefficients interpretable and also to tackle the collinearity. So we have introduced our moderator W, okay, AC. Options, now we don't need to do because these are only applicable for the first 6 models, okay. So what we will do is just leave it as it is. Conditioning, we'll continue with a mean plus minus 1 SD. And now I will paste the command again in my syntax file, okay. And we know that there will be 3000 lines of code that will be printed, so we will remove that code from our, and we will add the comment that this is our favorite mediation. Okay. Now when we run this, we get the output. We're waiting for the output. Yes, here it is. Now model number 8. Okay, so let us look at what is it that we are getting. So we are getting model number 8. That is fine. Our Y is OCB, X is POS, mediator is AC, and the W here is PCB mean set. Our sample size is 429. So the first outcome that we are looking at, so we are now focusing on this part of our model. Okay, so this part where we are looking at POS, outcome is AC and the role of psychological contract breach here. And that is what is given. So you have the constant, then you have the POS coefficient, it is significant. PCB direct path, it is significant at P less than 0.01. And now you get the interaction term, which is minus 0.206. Okay, the interaction is POS multiplied with PCB. Okay, so there is a significant interaction and this effect is negative, which is what we had theorized also, that higher the PCB, okay, if PCB psychological contract breach is high, then the effective commitment should be low, and that is what the negative sign here is telling us. Rest are the control variables. Then we go to the outcome, the OCB. Okay, here you have the path from the mediator coming in, which is significant. Okay, Then you have the POS, PCB. Okay, PCB is not significant, but let us look at what happens to the interaction. Interaction term is significant at P less than 0.05. Okay, so at P less than 0.05, the interaction 2, which is again POS multiplied with PCB. What is the part of the model that is being tested in this? We are testing this part. So OCB is the outcome. So you have a path from effective commitment and you have a direct path coming from POS, and then you have the moderator PCB. So you will therefore have a path from PCB as well as the product POS and PCB. Right? Now let us look at the effects. Okay, so what will be the conditional effects here? The conditional direct effects. So the conditional direct effects would be, we were talking about this, and yeah, so now the conditional direct effect, let us look at the conditional direct effect now. Okay, the output of our model tells us, so if you are talking about POS to OCB, you have PCB also, and you have POS into PCB. Okay, the coefficient of POS here is 0.204. Then the coefficient of PCB is minus 0.065, and 0.204 is significant at triple star here, implies P less than 0.001. Okay, and POS to PCB, the interaction, it is minus 0.084. It is significant, right? Double star is less than 0.01 and single star is P less than 0. Okay, so what is the theta x to y conditioned upon, or let me call it as POS to OCB, which is conditioned on PCB, is given by 0.204 minus 0.084 times PC. Okay. Now the PCB we know takes two values. Low value is minus 0.678 and the high value is mean plus 1 SV, that is plus 0.678. So what will this be at theta POS, when PCB is equal to minus 0.678, we can write it is 0.204 minus 0.0. So I'm just multiplying it, so I can also write this as 0.084 multiplied with 0.678. So if you solve this, let me just do it quickly. 0.084 multiplied with 678. It is going to be 0.202 plus 0.057. And if you add this, you get 0.265. Right? And this is what we are getting at minus 0.678, the direct effect. Similarly, you can put in plus 0.678 you will get. So what is it that we are seeing? As the psychological contract breach moves from low to high value, the direct effect of POS on OCB decreases, and that is the moderation that we are talking about. Okay. Similarly, the conditional indirect effect. Now, let us come to the conditional indirect effect. So, I'm again coming to my whiteboard. Let us draw it and let us write down what is the conditional indirect effect now. Okay, so this was for the direct effect. Let us now draw a similar diagram for, so you have POS to AC, right? And you have OCB on the, this is, and then there will be a path from PCB and there will be a path from POS multiplied with PC. Okay, so and there are all these coefficients here also, PCB and POS. Okay, so this is, remember we said this is A1, A2, A3, and we said this is B. This is C1, C2, and C3. Okay. Now, what are the coefficients? So C1, C2, C3 we can write. It is already here. So C1 was 0.204 triple star. C2 was minus 0.065 and it was not significant, and this was minus 0.084 single star. Right? Yes. Okay. And now we'll also write down what is our A1, A2, A3, and B. So we look at our output here, and right. So what is our B? B is the path from AC to OCB. So this is 0.223 and it is significant at triple star. Then what is A1? So we go back to the, when the outcome was AC. What is A1? A1 is the path from POS to AC. So this is 0.679. It is significant at triple star. Then what is A2? A2 is the path from PCB. So this is 0.197. It is significant at double star, P less than 0.01. And then the interaction term is minus 0.206. Minus 0.206. What is it? It is significant at triple star. Right, so now we have completed our diagram. This is what we have got. So we have written down our values of A1, A2, A3, and AC, and the path from AC to OCB, which is B. So we said, what is our theta x to m now, which is conditional on W, which is theta POS to AC conditional on PCB. It is A1 plus A3W, right? So this is the effect of POS, the antecedent to the mediator. It is given by A1 plus A3W, which is given by 0.679 plus, it is minus 0.206. So let me write it here, minus 0.206 times AC. Okay, then theta m to y, which is theta AC to OCB. Now this is not conditional on anything, which is equal to B, which is equal to 0.223. So what is our conditional indirect effect? Okay, so what is going to be our theta x to m to y conditional on W indirect effect? It is going to be A1 plus A3 W times B, okay, which can be written as 0.679 minus 0.206 PCB whole multiplied with 0.223. Now we know PCB takes two values, so I can say theta x to m to y when W is minus 0.678 is going to be 0.679 plus minus 0.206 multiplied with minus 0.678 whole multiplied with 0.223. If I were to solve this, okay, 0.206 multiplied with 0.678 plus 0.679 whole multiplied with 0.223, it will come out to be 0.183, about 0.1. Similarly, the indirect effect, which is now conditional, so theta x to m to y 0.678, which is 0.679 plus minus 0.206 multiplied with 0.678 whole multiplied with 0.223. So what does this become? It becomes 0.1. Okay, and let us see what the software tells us in terms of the indirect effect. Okay, when we go down, we say AC when PCB is low, it gives 0.182. We have also written 0.18, we have written 0.183. Is it significant? The indirect effect is significant because the zero does not lie in the confidence interval. For high, it is 0.120. This is what we had also got. This is also significant. What we see is as the psychological contract breach moves from low to high, the indirect effect starts to reduce. That means the indirect effect is conditional upon the value that PCB is taking. And that is the conclusion that we write. So when I write this paper, in the paper, you see we report this in terms of our table. So we report all of this, and then this is what we have written. Table number 4, moderated mediation result for perceived organization support across levels of psychological contract breach. So the conditional indirect effect, when the response variable, the outcome variable was OCB, the mediator was effective commitment, low value of the moderator, the effect was 0.20, okay, and it was the bootstrap confidence interval suggested it is significant. At high levels of the moderator, it's reduced, it continued to remain significant, but the indirect effect has reduced. So what does this show? It shows that the process that we are talking about does not happen unconditionally. It is conditioned on the value that the moderator is is taking. As the moderator takes a higher value, your indirect effect also starts to change. And that is the whole idea of talking about the conditional process analysis. You can read further papers. In all these papers, in all moderated mediation table papers, you will find a table like this. You see in another paper, moderated mediation results for job characteristic across levels of conscientiousness, the conditional indirect effect, low value of the moderator, high value of the moderator. Okay, and you show that the indirect effect also changes. You report the confidence. Okay, so this is typically what is reported. You have diagrams like these or conceptual diagrams like these where you are saying that the process that we were talking about is conditioned on certain variables, right? So what is to conclude what we have learned? We have learned the idea of mediation, okay, which is the process. We have learned the idea of moderation, which is talking about testing boundary conditions, and then mixing the two or combining the two in order to get to this idea of moderated mediation, which is the conditional indirect effect or the conditional process. Okay, so I hope you will you would have gained some insight based on what we have discussed. Uh, Please feel free to go through these papers, try out the example again that we have done in the class. I will also be, uh, in case there is any other thing you may want to talk about, feel free to write to me and I will be happy to answer your queries. The book by Andrew F. Hayes is a very good text, okay? And the book covers broadly the ideas that I have tried to cover in this time of 3 hours that we. That is it from my side. Once again, apologies to all of you for the disruption that happened. There are things that are beyond our control, and we have to make the best use of what we have.
Professor,
Yes.
Professor, would it be possible to attach the output files and the the syntax in Google Drive?
Yes, I will do that. I will do that.
Thank you, Professor.
And I will. It is not a Google Drive per se, but so maybe what I will do is, can I share it right now through the, okay, I will figure out, I will maybe upload and then send out a link again.
Sure, Professor.
Okay, if anybody has any question, I would be happy to take.
Hello, Professor, can I ask you a question? Sorry, it's almost 10 o'clock now. So, no, from the theoretical aspect, I have few doubts, Professor. One of the question is, so often we also see some of the models where they